At the time of recording this video, Battlefield 4 had roughly 100,000 players currently online playing the game across 5 platforms and had even peaked at well over 130,000 for the last 24 hours. This from a game that released over 2 years ago, 28 months ago to be precise, and with the hype train gaining speed, rumours and leaks, I'm sure we're all very excited for Battlefield 5, whatever that may be, but clearly players are still enjoying BF4 a lot, so let's take a look at why that is and how I think that success can be replicated for BF5. We all remember BF4's launch and we all know how much of a disaster it was, but fast forward to just over a year after release and you can pinpoint the exact thing that turned BF4's fortunes around: the CTE community test environment. There's no getting around it that without the CTE, BF4 would not have the amount of players it currently has enjoying the game today. Not even close. The CTE didn't just help test and fix problems with the current version of the game, but it allowed new content to be tested down the line that further improved everyone's experiences. Even a brand new map, Operation Outbreak, created with the community and tested by the community, was all possible because of the CTE. And this is where DICE LA come in, because without their hard work on the CTE and everything that entailed, we wouldn't be where we are today. When the CTE was first announced, there was a little bit of uncertainty towards it. Some players complained that they had to download another game to get the best experience and that they didn't feel as though they should have to test a game that they've already purchased. But in reality, the players and community testing was needed to push the game back to where it needed to be. The CTE would also help DICE to implement balance changes to the game without disrupting players on the vanilla version. So weapon balance runs, vehicle balance, and even testing high tick rate servers to improve the netcode of the game were all first tested on the CTE and then tweaked accordingly. BF4 not only improved over time, but the CTE became something far different than it was first intended. At first, it was created to deal with the game's glaring netcode issues, which to be fair is currently in tip-top shape, the best it's ever been in a Battlefield title. And now 2 years on, it's one of the best things that ever happened to Battlefield and the Frostbite engine, and I would be amazed if there was not a CTE for BF5 either on release or very shortly after release. It's worked so well for BF4 that I think it would be a really stupid idea to not have it for BF5. It wasn't just the CTE that helped though. New content also helped to keep players engaged and coming back for more. There were of course the 5 main DLCs that you had to either pay for individually or own premium: China Rising, Second Assault, Naval Strike, Dragon's Teeth and Final Stand. Some were a lot better than others, it has to be said, but new content nonetheless. As well as that, we also had the Night Operations Pack, the Community Operations Pack, and most recently, the Legacy Operations Pack, all for free to everyone. Let's take a look now. Night Operations was something that actually spawned from the community using the cinematic tools developed by Hattie Wattie to change the lighting on certain maps. Guys like the lovely Shadow 6 running community events with community members, playing games on the nighttime versions of the maps using the cinematic tools to change all of the settings individually. It was tricky to pull off, but the events were a lot of fun. They were all streamed on Twitch and YouTube, and off the back of that, DICE started working on their own official nighttime versions of some of the maps. Moving on, Community Operations was in fact the community-led map project run on the CTE that we talked about earlier. The community had a hand in everything from the map's layout, styling and even its name. You could then jump on the CTE at each stage of development, from very early on when everything was just grey boxes all the way up to the final build of the map. It was great to get all the community involved, and I suspect it's something that will be done again in the future, if not for BF4, maybe for BF5. And lastly, Legacy Operations. This was a reimagining of Dragon Valley from Battlefield 2, a true Battlefield map, again tested on the CTE. Now you can see how useful that thing is, and later released for free to everyone. This is actually one of the biggest maps in BF4, and it really brought large-scale vehicle combat back to the game in a good way. Additional weapons were also a thing that kept players interested. Over 20 new weapons have been added into the game since release, and that's just a ballpark figure. A lot were added with the new DLCs, but we also got free content for everyone, including the AN-94, the L-86A2 and the Mare's Leg, to name a few, and everyone loves free stuff, right? New knives and gadgets were added too. The once glorious and infamous UCAV was added with China Rising, for example, or how can we forget about the C100 bipod knife inspired by Battlefield Friends? New dog tags, new assignments, new community driven assignments, competitions, it all kept players coming back for more. So the team updated the game with constant improvements and balance changes with the help of the CTE. They released their regular paid DLCs as well as releasing free weapon drops and free map packs available to everyone. You would think that would be all, but no, we are forgetting one thing that brought so many community members together, and if you agree with them or not, they have to be mentioned: Easter eggs. I wouldn't even like to guess how many hours I've personally spent looking for Easter eggs, and to clarify, it's a massive community effort. I don't go around finding every little detail no more than anyone else does, but I do put a lot of time in. We were at a LAN here in the UK one weekend when we started putting together Morse code sequences and scouring the ground for tiny boxes with special dog tags in them in Final Stand. I actually spent the entire night streaming it on Twitch TV, all from the LAN event, until we made it into the Phantom Room for the first time, and the reaction was just incredible. However, I did oversleep and arrived a bit late the next day for our tournament games as well because of it, but I'm sure it was all worth it. The Megalodon 2 and the whole Kevin Simpson Phantom project, from a community standpoint, that was one of the best things ever, and a stroke of genius from the DICE developers who put it together, truly and only in Battlefield Adventure. We had full servers of people trying to climb up palm trees, trying to trigger a giant shark to jump out the water. When you say it like that, it sounds really silly. And before we even got to that stage though, and the Naval Strike DLC was released, a lot of people, myself included, thought that this thing was on Paracel Storm, and we spent hours trying everything known to man to trigger it. Let me tell you that if I told you some of the stuff I've done to try and trigger some of these Easter eggs, you'd probably think I was insane. And then we had the newest Chinese Lantern Easter egg on the Dragon Valley map, masterminded by DICE developer JJJU, and just on another level to the simple Easter eggs discoverable in other AAA titles. The point to all of this though is that it's entirely community driven. I spend so much time with friends in servers trying to figure these out, the whole community gets involved, and without thousands of eyes all looking at the same time, we'd never have found half the things that we already have. Some people say these elaborate Easter eggs shouldn't be in the game, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a bit of fun, and considering that they're all added into the game in the dev's own time after hours, I think it's a great way to get the community hyped, involved, and just to have a bit of a laugh. That's the whole point of playing video games anyway. So there we have it. Ultimately, Battlefield 4 turned its fortunes completely around from a very dodgy start to something that's in a really good place now, and I'm enjoying playing BF4 more than I ever did. Tons of weapons, a large amount of maps, good netcode, balance, and overall, it's lasted the test of time. Sure, Battlefield 5 will be out before we know it, but if that game follows the same path, so let's say it has a CTE, regular content drops with maps and weapons, both paid and free, all of the netcode updates and bug fixes that have occurred in BF4 and to the Frostbite engine, perhaps some themed Easter eggs thrown in. If it has all of that stuff, I think it could be a massive success. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.